To add a person, we need to get access to a service here in the person input component as well. Now, definitely feel free to implement this on your own. You need to inject the service and then call the add person method. Here's your chance to pause the video and try it on your own, and thereafter we'll do it together. So, were you successful? First of all, we don't need that property with add output anymore, and we don't need to import output and event emitter anymore, therefore. Instead, what we need here is a constructor so that we can inject our person's service, which is of type person's service, and that is important, and the import of person's service is also important. Now, as a side note, because that is actually not something you can take for granted by default, this person's service object we get here will be exactly the same object we get here. And that simply happens because we defined this to be provided in root. And that is the default, and changing this behavior is beyond the scope of this refresher. It is something you can also learn in the official docs here under dependency injection with these articles. You could override this to have different objects, but here we want to have the same object actually. We want to have the same service so that we work on the same list of persons. Now in onCreatePerson, therefore I don't want to emit this person name anymore. Instead, I want to use my person's service and call add persons and pass this entered person name. And now in the person's service and add person, let's also console log this person's array to see if that worked. If we now save that, and we will face the issue of not being able to navigate to that other component. We have no navigation bar. We can manually enter /input, which is our other route. We do see it here. And I can, of course, enter Michael here, or any other name, and hit create. And in the console, you'll see that output, and you see the array with Michael being added. So we see that this works. But if I now remove this and go back, you'll not see Michael in the list, because the app actually reloads when we manually change the URL. So we need some way of navigating around so that we can finish up that dependency injection and service logic. So let's take a step back to routing in the next lecture.